Hey, welcome to the Catalyst Circle working session, September 7th, 2022. Let's kick it off with a quick check-in with everybody. We'll start with Joey, and then we'll go to Quasar.
All good. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Quasar, and then Felix.
Yeah, also all good. Glad to be here. I think we'll be able to wrap up what we need to get nominees and nomination criteria and get the selection going for CCv4. So thank you all for putting in the time and effort and patience.
Awesome. Felix, and then Steve.
Felix, I'm happy. There we go. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Steve, how's it going?
Yeah, me too. Me too. I feel lucky to be here, so it's interesting to have a part.
Glad to have you guys here. All right, let's do some screen sharing. And this is the agenda. Let's do announcements. We have 2 minutes for announcements. Does anybody have anything they want to announce that others should be aware of?
Yeah. I had a call with Emorgo asking them for a general participation in Catalyst, as they are not present at all, and introduce the new structure of the Catalyst circle to them. So this holocratic body with walking groups and all this stuff. And invited them to join, to say, hey, is this something what would be interesting for you? They definitely would love to, because they have all these funds, they want to invest them properly, and in Catalyst we just generate all these projects which need maybe a little bit more funding than what Catalyst provides. So conversation started, and they are definitely keen to join and to build much more closer communications, or at least communications to Catalyst and to the community, because there aren't any yet.
It's great.
That'd be amazing. Quasar.
A quick announcement from some feedback received from the community, specifically during a couple of Twitter spaces, and then Epoch's End show yesterday. Emergo did come was part of the topic, so was CF. The community holding other stakeholders such as Emergo and CF more accountable, and getting buy-in from those entities, including IOG, of course. A lot of communication about accountability, and still a general consensus of not really, I don't want to say consensus, forgive me, a general feeling that people do not quite understand Circle, and at this point don't quite understand what the purpose of Catalyst is either. There was discussion of a Catalyst reboot, and something that had happened before as a Cardano or CF reboot. And I'd like to make sure that we're aware of the community talking about a reboot, what the hell that means, and does it affect Circle v4 or Circle, whatever we call it? What is this reboot, and is it part of Fund 10? So that's just some general announcements from my experience and some discussions.
Thanks, Quasar. Definitely good stuff to be aware of.
Quasar, you don't mean the CF or Emergo was saying that. You mean people in the community.
But yeah, people in the community, yeah, on the show, they were asking, is CF in charge of marketing? When in fact, no, they're not really marketing. As my understanding, they're more partnerships. That's why they're working with the exchanges. So there's still just a general mutual shared understanding of the stakeholders and their roles within the community, and even what is the community's role in Catalyst. So, Jeremy's been pretty active in Twitter spaces lately, so he's aware of some of the challenges and the questions that are being brought up. But no, it was all community driven.
I had a conversation with a community member the other day after he had watched Frederick's conversation with Dirk Handel that came out a couple of weeks ago, and it was, you know, and he kind of echoed my feeling in that, you know, it's like CF still is trying to define itself just like everybody is. You know, I think that's just how fast all of this stuff is happening, and I don't think everybody has a clear idea of what we are and what intent is.
All the
But
big
we sure are
experience.
busy. Sure are
And
busy.
also regarding the CF and the Imogo, both of them started end of last year, this year, to heavily stuff up their teams. Before they were really running on pretty small teams. And from the foundation side, for example, it took them just a shitload of time to come out of the 1000 error and to come back where they have been before, simply. And very
It
often
takes a lot to handle. I'm sorry, I was just gonna say it takes a lot to handle that many new employees. I mean, it does.
IoT, same, right? They haven't just onboarded.
Yeah.
Oh, that's people this year, right? So
I don't even know what half my team's names are. That's not quite true.
Just call him Quasar.
Yeah, mate. That's right, mate.
but-
All right, mate.
But what I recommend, if we speak with the community, to also show this perspective from the entity side, to say, hey, they are also in the structuring process. We can't expect from them that they have everything figured out already, because sometimes the community has this expectation and it's simply not true, right? They don't know everything. They are very often in the same position as we. Shit, what do we actually have to do? Wow, and then the whole thing starts, right? But we're pretty much on the same boat in this regard, I think, from community and entity side.
Welcome, Chris. We're just doing the initial check-ins, so good timing. How are you doing today?
Very good, very good. Just come fresh off the back of back-to-back practice pitch presentations from the Ariob incubator startups. So you guys might remember we have the Ariob incubator, which is focused on African startups, and they're motoring towards their demo day in on the 22nd of September. So we've just been working with those guys. So yeah, full of gusto, full of enthusiasm, and great, compelling pitch presentations, which is good.
Amazing. All right. So let's go into the agenda. We have 3 topics, it looks like, there. So far, we have the CCv4 election process discussion, compensation and accountability, and then code of conduct. Joy, is there anything else we want to add? Someone's adding circle shift to working group.
Which was briefly discussed on Monday. Just to give a really short intro to this topic, that we say, okay, we hadn't any election in this shift from Circle version 3 to 3.1.2, whatever it is. And to simply say, maybe stop to spread more confusion and say, oh, okay, Catalyst Circle version 3 is officially over. And the people which are here, this is a working group, which tries to set everything up for the Catalyst Circle version 4 election then. I think in the community, this could really lead to maybe some more engagement, as some there have really pushed pretty much back on this circle, which is actually not elected at itself. And maybe this can calm a little bit the fronts there and invite people and say, okay, cool, actually, they do not pretend anymore to be something we didn't vote for. And they are pretty right with it, I would say. So.
I guess the only other thing that I wanted to mention, I don't think I'm going to have a chance to do it. I've got to jump off in an hour and 10, unfortunately. But if there isn't enough time, last night in the governance jam after town hall room, at the very end, I jumped in there and I gave a few slides around a view on my thoughts that builds on GPS and George's funding categories. And I figure it will be very interesting for everybody here to maybe go and find that video and check it out. And I'd really like to have a chat with you about your thoughts on that next time.
Okay.
That sounds great.
You got a link to the slides for us?
I don't want to share the slides because they're not
Okay.
finished. But the
Okay.
slides are on that video, and I'm meeting with. Well, I hope to meet with George, Nadia, and Tommy and the gang tomorrow to talk it over.
All right. So do you want to add that to the data, or if there's time?
Yeah,
Or
maybe it's
is
just
that-
more
was
of an
that it?
FYI. If there's
Okay.
time and you will indulge me, I'll run through it. But otherwise, just as an FYI, to go and take a look at the governance jam video from yesterday. And quick question, sorry to interrupt, Felix, who do I send the videos to from my rooms? Because I'm not sure.
Normally all the recordings are sent to courswarm@gmail.com, and from then
Courswarm.
there we upload it. I sent the link here in the live chat.
Top man, I'll send those now.
Thanks, Felix. Any other updates or changes to the agenda before we talk about these topics? Quasar?
No, I think mine's on topic for the working group part, so we can wait.
Let's jump in then. CCv4 election process. How are we doing there? Are we all set to go? Is there still stuff we need to coordinate, decide, etc.?
Budget, fucking budget. This is only point missing. The rest is quite well defined already, I think.
Are you talking about the compensation for the circle members?
Yes.
Should we move that to the top then and then move, or is there anything needed to coordinate the election process? Like, how do we collect platform statements? Where do we publish them? How do we announce things? Is all that mapped out already?
I think we have a sheet, Chris, the ones with the colors you set up for the schedule for the election. What's already outlined? Where's this document? This
So
actually.
we want to go ahead, Felix.
No, go for it, Steve.
Well, I was wondering, I brought it up Monday and I thought about it, but I haven't really formulated any words. But I think if we can, when the people, are listed on drip drops, if we have some questions we want to ask the community, it seems like an ideal time to take advantage of the platform that we're going to be on anyway for voting. All right. I've just been out of touch this week and I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about that thought. I just feel like it's a good time to do something like that.
All right, Joey, you have something?
Yeah, just quickly, I believe it was Zoe that had some comments back from Discord on the election process that DripDrops was going to use. And there were some questions there about whether you get one vote or you get the vote for the top 3 or 4. So maybe there's that voting process we need to make sure we get defined.
All right. I brought up the election protocol in tasks. Is this still accurate? Do we need to update this?
So I guess the dates aren't accurate anymore. And we obviously haven't checked off any of the tasks or allocated any tasks to anybody. I'll be back on camera in just a sec, guys.
Because would it make sense that we maybe take some time to just define major steps, what needs to happen in order to kick off the nomination? So we have the introduction to the Catalyst Circle, version 4 with the responsibilities, the objectives, all the stuff that's on the Catalyst Circle version 4 nomination, things and stuff. What we then, so the introduction is there, so people know what they can go for. The only point which is still open is the rewards or the budget posts. Then we need to set up, what do we then have to do after? Set up a Google form for candidates to nominate themselves or others. Set up a Google form for nomination. Then the form and the whole stuff should be somehow announced. And Chris, do you think what we, for example, the text show he wrote last week, we outlines a little bit Catalyst Circle and all the stuff, just a brief introduction, that we just set up a document with the responsibilities, what we have on the Circle version 4 nominations, and upload, like you introduced the Catalyst Circle on the at IOG blog. That we have a new one there, so one place where we know, okay, people can go there, because right now everything's quite over the place and we don't have really one platform to delegate people to if they want to get more information or whatnot.
Yeah, how do you sort of see that? I'm not entirely clear.
Just you remember the very first blog post which you set up last year for the Catalyst Circle introduction.
Yeah.
Do you think we could go the same way and to say, okay, this blog post, we link all the informations and do the form and everything there, and to have this one single place where all people just can delegate people to?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, it's really a good thing that my wife's going away for the whole weekend. I've got nothing to do. My time. All right, I'll write a blog post on like a year on, right? Like Catalyst Circle elections, and you know, thoughts a year on or something like that. You know, where essentially the main sort of thread of the blog, I'm still going to have to go through, because it's going to come from IO. It will go through like a round or two of technical writers editing and even a legal sign off.
What?
I know.
Fuck. This takes forever.
Yeah, it never used to be like that. I could write blogs and just crank them out and publish them the next. No, it wasn't quite as streamlined as that, but yeah. But you know, listen, if we get it done on Saturday and then it can go in on Monday, I'll tell you what I can do. Whilst you guys are talking, I'll set up a legal ticket so that it's in the legal team's like backlog. So hopefully then they can get to it in the next couple of days. I mean, otherwise, if it can come out from another channel, it'll probably be a bit quicker. But obviously, I appreciate that it probably gets more eyeballs if it comes from IO, right?
When we agree on the content, then we can post it also on the Cardano forum, for example. That's a quite good platform as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the content literally, it won't even be like a really. I wouldn't really give thoughts and perspectives and opinions, because that shouldn't really be the focus. That's just an idea. But it would be an outline of what Circle is, a reminder of what Circle is again, and maybe, you know, a little bit about what's been achieved, and then you know, getting into some nuts and bolts about how the Circle elections are going to run.
So are we going to shove
Go on, sorry. I was just
Go
going to say
ahead.
what's really important then is that those tasks in that coloured task list, they are the tasks, because that'll essentially frame how I sort of talk about the election processes.
So are y'all thinking that we're going to push all these dates 1 week, or do we need more than 1 week?
I'd like to say that there's 10 or 11 days left in voting. So the community's engaged in that voting. I mean, obviously we have to move these by a week or whatever it may be, but it'd be great to be able to get some additional conversation around voting and Catalyst, and also talking about Circle, and maximizing on that influence or the attention that's going on right now.
Just a quick comment on the blog. I like the idea of the blog, but just a tickler that, Stephen or I call him Stefan Whitenhall, had started that GitHub repository that has all that type of information on it as well. So we might use that for storage, even if we use the blog for communication.
Usually whatever comes out here is documented by Curator. And for the record,
selectively,
Vanessa, Stephen, you watched this fucking awesome walk. Thanks a lot for all you do.
All right. So is this spreadsheet what we're working off of to identify the different tasks and the timeline for the election?
Maybe we can just take off the dates and just focus on the points.
Okay. I don't have edit access, but yeah. It feels like we need somebody to help drive this and take care of kind of the admin of this kind of stuff. And I know that's hard. I wonder how we go about doing that. Does somebody here want to step up and do that? Or do we want to reach out to motivated people in the community to help out? I see things mentioned of like governance day. And in the past, we've run those, but those have been funded events. And I don't know that we have any funding for anything like that either. So we're really asking for volunteers unless you all want to do it. So how do we go about gathering the resources and the passion needed to make all of this happen?
The general aid holder still has some funding that we'll use for some of this.
Also from a Bridge Builders funded proposal from Fund 7 governance events. There's still a budget which was usually normally allocated to Café sur le Pont, but maybe can be allocated to a governance day as well. Fits the same intention actually, because the governance day and governance day and Café sur le Pont has been part of the same proposal. And we still have to execute one of the events there.
Okay, so we can resource it that way.
Maybe together with the general aid holder budget, definitely, I think there should be a way to go.
Okay. And then that in the past, that was kind of a joint CC admin bridge builders event. Do we want to continue in that model and bring up the resources, or do we want to open it up more broadly to volunteers who want to step up? And
we should open it up. We saw there are some people, some individuals who really identified through the last months that they really take care a lot for you. So maybe it would be a beautiful way to engage them and to do what Circle is also about, to nurture collaboration, I think, and engage the community. And outsourcing stuff. Hey, community, yes, you want to do, yeah, please do so.
all right. Okay, I'm not quite sure how to proceed here. I'm still feeling like there's a huge vacuum of somebody actually driving this process. And
Then I go for it and engage people then to set up the nomination form, set up the governance event. Because there are a bunch of engaged people in Swarm around, so.
all right, Quasar.
Yeah, bear with me. I'm just looking for one document that actually has Chris's the communication strategy, those 1 through 4. I'm just trying to find that, and then I'll start contributing more to this item, this checklist. But ultimately, we've got criteria form and the guidance that we need to get there. I feel like we have to be able to clearly say what we're asking for this criteria and the guidance for, why, which that really goes back to the compensation, which goes to the accountability and the, dare we say, parameter change, Chris?
Dare to say parameter change, yeah.
Like, fuck me, can somebody say parameter change without it being
I'm playing.
I've been confident about so many things I know nothing about. I can say it repeatedly.
So on the point of compensation, right? We need to bottom out that accountability model. Once we're happy on that, it's a change to be made.
Wonderful. And I copied the accountability here. I think a better version is in the link there. Nori, if you want to open up that file and scroll to page 36, that's file? I believe so. Yeah, I've got that window pretty small here. Yeah, so scroll down to page 36. And that is what it's after 35.
There's no page numbers, it's just one long document.
There you go. Right there.
Okay. Shall we jump to that topic then, since we want to bottom this stuff out?
Yes, we do. However, I want to just say that is number 3 of the topic. So yes, let's jump there because that goes to the code of conduct, the working group. Yep.
All right.
And it feeds back to the criteria form. So ultimately, criteria, people that are going to nominate themselves need to be able to do some of these things, such as host rooms, record rooms, set up topics, get feedback. I believe this defines some of the qualifications. And I think the criteria itself is kind of open. People can submit their own criteria, but the qualifications, people need to be able to do this. At least one or more of these, which they should be able to do between Discord, Zoom, and everything else. And forgive me, y'all. I'll have to take this. Well, no, I don't.
All right. So what's the goal with the accountability model? Is it to discuss it, to agree that this is the model?
Well, I think the idea here was, you know, I started this off the back of last week. There are some gaps. I think, you know, we're sort of, you know, this shouldn't be overly, you know, onerous for someone to be able to do. But, you know, where there are activities that are taking place outside of these meetings, there needs to be some way of being able to evidence that stuff was done, right? That's the key thing. Like, it didn't feel like we should be suggesting that circle reps complete a monthly progress report like funded projects, but you know, I do think that there is room to be able to create some sort of activity log, and then that way, you know, there's a central source of truth which, you know, everybody adheres to, like completing when they're doing stuff, and then it's kind of trackable by the community. That was the idea. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be that way. If there's a better way of doing it, and then this was just an idea of like, well, my thoughts on, well, what are the activities that a rep member is likely to participate in? How is it recorded? How frequent are these sorts of activities? What would this log need to show? Right, so if I do a Twitter space, I should be able to record it and point to the link.
Yes, absolutely. There's also a template for Twitter spaces, you know, with topics to cover, you know, insert. Forgive me, that's almost turned into a bad joke. Oh, shoot. Insert a template and a framework and a guide, and all of a sudden the things that we're doing and not gathering the data, now we've got a guide to gather and report. And that's how I see it. Whether it be a Twitter, you know, a template for a meeting. Actually, you know, if the circle can agree on one thing, then each of the 5 or whomever it may be can have 5 different meetings and report those back. Now we've got 5, you know, surveys or 5 groups, and we can actually analyze what different communities are being part of. You know, ideally, I'd like to see not a segregation of the reps in separate meetings, but more of a shared interest or shared topic of discussion amongst reps that are facilitating communication between multiple groups and shareholders.
Well, I that's the ideal, right? I hope that that's what happens. I mean, you know, I think the risk in like having just 5 open reps being elected is, are they going to collaborate? You know, and I think it lies on us. I mean, we have to push. We have to push that, hey, parameters changing for you guys, right? Hasn't happened yet, right? But this 4th version, there's, you know, you're going to get paid, and you got to do this minimal amount of accounting. And this is what we'd like to see. I mean, this is what the community's hoping for, is this collaboration among a variety of groups, you know, and you know, I don't think that there's much risk that there's going to be 5 reps elected all from the same basic clique in the community. I don't think that that's what's going to happen. So I think it all depends on the way we phrase these things. You know, what will engage people, and I think we can do this. I hope we can do it, and I hope then they do it.
Nora, would you mind opening up the Google Doc that I shared in the chat? Yeah, so I mean, this is just a template for a Twitter space, or really you could just mark it out for any community space, whatever media it is. You know, the purpose, principles, outcomes, uses. We can change the parameters and things. Again, I'm going to repeat this 1,000 times. Peter came up with this. It's his creation. I love it, and it gives us, you know, a great guide to go by, whether it be a Discord, a Zoom, an after town hall. It gives us a little bit of a template where we can have this, you know, as a template, and insert our topics and our ideas. The facilitation and everything remains the same, and that's where the facilitator and the host of these spaces, it's very crucial. It's important to do. This is something that's happening throughout the community. Many people are holding these spaces and creating a ton of value, and we're not able to compensate them for doing these things. And I believe it's creating a lot of value. So I would certainly want to consider this. And then Nori, on the other document, the original one for this meeting, I included a link to the Miro up in the table there, and it's the original, or one of the original speaker ball templates, which is just brilliant. I think. Oh, give me a break. Anyway, it's the speaker ball thing from way back from a year ago from Swarm and Gimbal Labs, things we did there. So between those two, we're able to create documenting things. We're able to establish interaction. We're able to record. We're able to report more than just a link to a Twitter space.
That's amazing. And one thing that we did do in Circle V2 and part of V3 was at the end of each meeting, we had a form that each rep would fill out. And one of the sections in there was just a brief summary of the activities you've done in the last 2 weeks. And that might also be a tool that could be used. That was used so that we can collect 5 different things from each of the elected seats to report on the funded proposal. So the CC admin team was using that to submit the monthly IOG reports on how the funds were being used. This sounds like it's very similar. If we're making a parameter change to pay the circle, the community needs to be informed of what's going on. So I think this is a really good model, but yeah, I think the devil's in the details on how we do it and when and how much. And like Quasar mentioned, recording meetings and uploading them and summarizing them all takes effort. And the question is, who does that and how are they compensated for their efforts? Like there's a lot of people volunteering time and doing the different regional town halls and different Twitter spaces and all sorts of stuff. But if we're tracking the circle representatives' time, they're leaning on a lot of community to help them out. So that's something to also think about.
Yeah, if we did a flat amount of 300 ADA per space, then that would be 10 events a month to cover that. Could we expect a circle rep or someone to do 10 events a month, which one, well, shit, 4 of them could be after town halls. So I think the budget, stays there, and it's like, I don't want to say it stays there. I think we could justify 10 sessions a month, 3,000 USD, 3,000 ADA, whatever that may be, at 10 a month. And did it happen or not? If it did happen and that rep wasn't the one that facilitated it, was it part of the sub circle or one of their attendees? Was there a reason for it? There's all of us on this meeting have somewhere else we need to go in an hour or less, in 40 minutes, so we have to have some sort of flexibility with this stuff. I would suggest that these funds are actually put into a multi-sig wallet. That way 3 to 5 people can sign off before funds are distributed.
And some of this was the initial intention around rapid funding funds as well.
Is the Treasury Guild, is that a long-term funded thing? I mean, can we use those guys, Miro and the other guy? No.
You can use them, but they're funded for a few things right now, but they're moving to a subscription model where you pay for their services.
Actually, Treasury Guild didn't had one funded proposal by themselves yet. Most of the stuff comes by the services they provide already.
Yeah. So each of the groups that utilizes their services is paying the Treasury Guild $1,000 a month or $1,500, depending on how much stuff they need to do.
I just like to throw in there, they are great and excellent at what they do. So if we can, and you're going to need a record, and they keep excellent records. So if there's any way we could utilize them, I think that would benefit us in the long run.
Can we talk them down on the price?
They do good work. We should raise the price. For
Well, I know, but yeah, I know, but it's still.
I will recommend them. If it's circle, pay them double.
So for the accountability model, what do we want to get to? Is this kind of a good guideline to start with? To say, in general, we want accountability. These are the kind of things that you should be tracking as a circle rep.
Chris, how does that work for you? Or what did you say, Steve?
I'm more keen to identify if there's any additional activities that you guys sort of see. These are just the ones that came off the top of my head last week. Everywhere there's a question mark, I think it's just like sort of saying these things need to be logged somewhere, and determining where that is what the question mark is.
Okay.
I don't want to discount one-on-one conversations, you know, and I think that they should log them. I think that that's valid, you know, and all of these things seem to be more like group-oriented activities. You know, I just know that I get a lot out of the one-on-one conversations I have in the community.
Yeah, the more one-on-one, you know, what I'm going to say, face-to-face interactions there are in a group, the more information spreads. That's more
Perverted. No, that was a joke.
Unperverted. Yeah, yeah. The more that you can increase these one-to-ones. So that's the tricky part. Like, that's hard for me. Like, how do I, you know, record every one-to-one, you know, conversation, and how do I choose which one-to-one conversation not to record? You know, some people don't want to be recorded, and I don't mean
Quasar and I had one.
Yeah, we've got plenty, Steve. Please don't talk about them. This is a recorded space. But you know, the documentation and being able to share with the permission of these one-to-ones it's huge. Goes a long way. Whether it be, you know, I mean, I'm a big fan of Obsidian, that knowledge sharing system, also HackMD. You know, I think people need to start including a journal or a diary, and be able to share that with one another. I'm a real big fan of Obsidian, and then there's an open source one, but you know, with open source comes sacrifices and a little more work.
For me, I think the form that Nori was talking about, if you add some additional questions or make a second form after every 2 weeks, we have to keep it simple, or else it's just not going to happen. People are just isn't. I mean, it's just human nature. So after our meeting, everything is fresh, or during the meeting, we just give a brief of what we've done and how we've interacted. So the circle can kind of monitor one another, help one another, and at the same time, the community can hear, and at least hear in the videos of, if they're interested, what activities you took place in. But we need to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if we can develop a habit simple habits. Smoking is easy. We just have to make it like smoking.
Yeah, and that's what we tried to do previously, was just to create a form as part of the meeting feedback to add 1 or 2 items and take a few minutes to do so.
I've not been the best at. I think I've slow. Yeah, that's exactly what circle feels like. Actually, it's speeding it up pretty good. For those listening, there was a comment that said "slow death," and I laughed hysterically because I'm going to go smoke right now. Making it simple, making the form, it's developing some habits that mean something, that we do want to, why do we complete a survey? Why do we complete a form? Why do we do this? Oh, it's easy to take it for granted and not do it until you miss out on something. You forgot that you did it. So I'd like to double down on expressing or stressing the importance of doing that personally within my own development and with the group.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I keep a notebook next to me all day long, and I write random words in it that have no context for me 3 days later. I have no idea what they're about. So like, I need a form. I need a form.
I'm with you, Steve. I got sticky notes everywhere. But if between the form and the biweekly meetings and what we do in the town halls already, and maybe after town halls, that should be enough, I would think, for them to be accountable for what they're doing.
Wow, that's just talking about what you're doing, right? That's just saying, yeah, I did this.
Yeah, I mean, you got to prove what you've done.
Well, I think that's what we're saying.
Right. The problem sensing board is, instead of it just being sensing and rubrics to sense how much is sensed and identify problems, actually make it a solution board and have people within circle or within the budget pay bounties to actually take care of some of these items. Somebody's got to actually act on them. And that's where I would make the argument that 3,000 ADA or 3,000 per seat is not enough. Perhaps there needs to be something additional for solution deliverers, people that are taking these problems and finding real solutions and not talking about them.
You want a bonus?
Not a bonus, but a way to offer bounties to people outside of a role and or host or scribe. I'm not wanting it, I'm suggesting it. I think it's needed. I think everybody will say 3K is not enough to do it.
Yeah, well, I think you got to know already what you want done to say that you've got a bounty for it.
Correct.
I think the one thing that we could do, the one thing that we could state as a goal is that if we're going for this holocratic thing, then it's circle building, right? Not this circle, but circles around the world, and that, the more organized people get in these various communities, the better for them, and the more metrics we could generate from this circle. And it's not going to be that big of a leap from what people in WADA and Latin America and Asia, it's not that big of a jump to say, hey, this is how you get in on governance in the community, right? Is form a circle to talk to the circle.
The process that they have in Catalyst United is to have a discussion group, a working group, and then a task force. So that's how they're elevating things, and it is all tracked on DWork and GitHub, and the bounties are there. So there's already community built processes in place that can be adopted and adapted. And you're right, Steve. Look at the town halls. Look at all the people that are actually doing these things already. Now let's just put a framework or some guidelines in place to record it. So there's the document. There's the data, the paper that people want.
So for me, I've been faced with remote workers. How do you know remote workers doing their work? Been faced with that hundreds of times. And for me, I've always just sat down with the employee. We set our common goals. And once I see that goal has been met, I know he's done the work, or she, whoever. So maybe the circle during their first few iterations, each person needs to set some goals, and then we just see if those goals are met.
Right. I mean, the nominees platforms are really going to be how they're held as individuals accountable, right?
Well,
No,
that's a general, that's a general statement of what I think. If you look at those questions, that's kind of a general statement of what I think needs to be done. But once you get out there, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, well, I mean that's that process of discovery, but I think that we can drive that, as in this lead up to the election, and saying that nominations are open. We can lead them in the sense of this is where we see Catalyst community governance going, and this is what we encourage nominees to think about as they nominate themselves, and state why. And the random nominee who says, I want to work on bored monkeys, then they'll separate themselves out.
So I mean, we've got the qualifications, I do believe. With Joey's criteria, I'm going to call it qualifications. The accountability would be the reporting, and I mean, I think we should take advantage of the Cardano forum and have these things published there, because it would get a lot broader audience. There's a ton of people that use the forum, and there's not a whole ton that don't use it that should be, in my opinion.
All right. Have we talked through the accountability model? Is there more that we need to discuss here? We talked about doing a form. We talked about having actual evidence of delivery.
Well, I think if we answered filled in the question marks with words that actually have meaning and intent, that would give Chris the final piece to go to IOG and ask for a parameter change to fund circle.
All right. And how should we get to filling in those question marks? Does somebody want to take a crack at it? Or do you want to work on it as a group? Noting we have about 25 minutes left.
I mean, just to be really clear, I think I'm only really expecting there to be one place where this stuff is logged, right? So it doesn't need to be.
Then the Cardano forum.
But you're not going to post a new post every single time, would you? How would it work? Like, what's the, you say like you record a text chat file from regional town hall. What do you then go and do? Do you create a new post on the forum and then post it, or is there like a spreadsheet where it's dated and kind of logged, and then it's an item or something like that? I'm just I don't want to make a decision. I just want to sort of give an idea as to what it might be.
Yeah, I would suggest a central place, yes, centralized where it can be stored. I was using the Google, the general data holder account drive, but I've been signed out of that one and I can't get back in right now. So between there, Discord, GitHub, I mean, you know, there's ways that we can clearly do this, and Swarm's already doing a great job of documenting and storing this with the after town halls. So there's a,
But I really feel like it should go where the rest of the circle documentation goes, which would be, from my understanding, the GitHub. You know, I mean, that's where the recordings go. That's where, you know, transcripts go. You know, they come into their circle meetings and then they turn in their report. You know, they give it to, you know, they leave it for whoever's running the GitHub account then, whether that's Stephen or Vanessa still, or, you know, in the future, you know. I mean, I assume we're going to make sure that that keeps going on, right? I mean, one way or the other.
Yeah. That won't happen for free. So that's something to consider. Like all this reporting and transparency is that it costs resources. And if we want transparency, then we have to pay for transparency. And they're doing great work, but they're also going fund to fund as well. So when that stops, there's no guarantee they'll continue. So that's something to consider as well if we're making a parameter change and considering who needs to be involved. Felix?
well,
General question to accountability, because I really like the example from last week where I said with Circle, it's actually pretty much the same like with the PAs and VPAs. We don't know exactly yet what they will do, like in the very beginning of the PAs and VPAs. And it would be, or it would have been freaking weird if IoT would have asked the first PAs and VPAs, hey, document your actions, make yourself accountable for the stuff you do. It wouldn't work, right? So we had this advantage that there was an outside party who was guaranteeing the auditability of the whole part. And maybe we should speak to QA-DAO, CGO, community governance oversight, because this is exactly what they do, right? And just have a check with them and say, hey, would you maybe come in and documentate as much as possible? If we don't have the documentation, then we don't have any possibilities to have any legitimacy or accountability on board as well, right? At first, we have to track what is going on already. And they are pretty awesome there. And then maybe to say, okay, maybe the accountability of the circle itself should not rely so much on the people in the circle, because they are fucking busy to do that job. So don't ask them to documentate their tasks too much themselves, but having like something like community governance oversight and QA though there who is taking this part on. Just checking in with them and ask them already if this would be something interesting.
I fully agree with Felix. What Stefan and Vanessa and those guys were doing for Circle before, and what the Treasury Group was doing was awesome. We didn't have to think about those things. We could continue with our work. But one thing that we have to do is when we go for funding, we got to include that, you know, just like with Slack, what are the costs for Slack? All those things have to be included in a budget when we go for funding. It can't just be the Circle salaries. It's got to be enough there to cover the overhead that goes along with functioning as a group.
Great points, guys. Chris just dropped something in chat around something he just created, which is a Circle activity log. So
we could even make it silly simple by listing the types of activities, and it could just be a drop down, right? And then you could just say, you know, or instead of activity description, it could be activity outcome.
You're
right?
imagining a sheet per rep, so they can just fill out as they go through stuff.
I would actually think it's important that everybody can see what everybody else is doing.
I agree.
yes.
So this is like, it becomes, and you know, listen, there's probably a better way to do this, and undoubtedly there is, but you know, in the absence of something, maybe this could just be. Maybe we could road test it. Like maybe just if you've got the appetite to do this over the next week or so, if you do something circle oriented.
Maybe I'm bored for this.
Yeah, I think if this is sufficient to get the documentation that Chris you need, let's just go with it. And it can always be modified if we see it's not working in the future.
Yeah, I just want something that like helps everybody to understand in a really simple, familiar way what work the circle reps are going to be doing. And you know, as I said, we can probably get it set up. I can probably get someone to set it up very quickly. We've got a clear idea as to what all those tasks are, and like you know, because everybody's been doing it, that activity name can be a drop down. It's as simple as that.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's just there in the GitHub repository. Somebody wants to go check what this version 4 is doing. There's the document. Everybody's logging in.
I'm pretty sure that
Present on town hall. We're just like, look at this. This is the activity log.
I'm pretty sure Steve and Stefan and Vanessa and them were setting stuff up there for us to collect information already. They already had started a process, which you know, I don't know what's happened to that. It's still sitting there, just no one's utilizing it.
It would be great to dive in or even ask them just to see, does this replicate something they've already done or something similar? And if not, and if you know this seems like it's a path of least resistance, then you know we can get it going.
Mm-hmm. And if it's basically a Google spreadsheet, you could also tie it to a Google form that can populate the spreadsheet, and then people can use different modalities. If they're not comfortable in spreadsheets, they can just fill out a form with the same column information and it would populate pretty easily.
Yeah.
The key is getting into the habit of recording things as you do them, or having a process once a week to flush all your activities into here. It's got, yeah, keeping up to date and getting into that habit is going to be the thing to get everybody doing.
Maybe one thing also, what was done by the facilitators in Catalyst Circle version 2, quite nice. It started in Circle version 1, was in the beginning of the meeting. Everybody, a really short update. What have you done last week? What are you going to do next week? Is there anything who blocks you? 3 main questions, and really simple, but I think as simple as beautiful.
It's what we do in daily stand-ups every day. It's what we try to ask everybody in the coordinator to do.
Yeah. Standard Scrum question.
Exactly. I guess, you know, it would be useful if we just go back to that accountability model bit and just be happy with those. Are there any other tasks that we think are, you know, regular or repeatable tasks? Is there anything else? Because then I'll just get this spun up into some drop downs.
My own experience through the last month of reporting my main tasks, it is extremely difficult to say what should I document and what shouldn't I, because somehow you don't want to add a task for each shitty thing, because then the important tasks get pretty much lost in the data only. So to figure out, and this I think it's an individual task for everybody themselves, what should I report? What are really main topics where you can see, oh, okay, there are several tasks and they merge together in one outcome, for example, or whatnot. But to not say, oh, okay, I documentate each fucking message I sent on Discord or Telegram related to Catalyst Circle.
That's silly. You're right.
Granularity will be
Or
important.
someone will just take liberties and do that, which is going to make no sense for anyone.
But you could record all the reasonable things and then do a weekly summary to highlight the important things. To say these are the key things that happened this week. That might be really nice for the community to get a summary like that.
Do we want to notice somewhere? Say, for example, let's agree, for example, on doing this already with ourselves first. Because I love this. Before expecting some shit from other people, first do it yourself and see if it fits. And if you see, yeah, you don't even arrive to, don't even try to ask other people to do, to do this shit. But simply say, for example, yeah, okay, for Catalyst Circle meetings, walking sessions as official meetings, from everybody, just a really short introduction in the beginning. What have you been up to last week? What do you want to do next week? Is there anything who blocks or what blocks you? And something like a weekly recording, self-recording, how would this look like a Loom or OBS or whatnot, just or Zoom. Record yourself, give a short wrap-up on what happened. Then the problem is, for example, when it comes into the individual statements, where do we post them? Where do we collect them? Once again, the Circle really needs a platform somehow where we can bring all the stuff together.
Prioritize problems, is that what you mean? Oh, the candidate statements. What statements do you mean, Felix?
Ah, no, not statements, the weekly reviews, for example. If we say we expect from Circle members something like a weekly wrap-up in text or video or however it might look like, then you have something like 7 reports each week. Where do they live? Where's their home?
Well, just to go back to what Stephen had done before, if you recall, with the priority boards, he set it up where the community could log in there and comment on the priority board. So it's just adding another sheet there where the Circle has put in what they've done. But again, it's going back to him and seeing what rights you need there and who's going to set that up and maintain it.
Yeah. If we're also moving towards more of a collaborative working group, it might be worth looking at some of the tools out there like Monday.com or Asana or some of these other platforms that have collaborative workspaces where you can have updates and report on things and track tasks. And but of course, that's not free either. But we do have the prioritized problem board, and we can definitely extend it to track other things if we want to, or create a sideboard. It's currently hosted and managed by Stephen and the CC admin team. So we have the ability to add stuff and extend it. We haven't been using the prioritized problem board for a while, but that was one of the key tools for the previous circles, is to go through it and focus on that to show accomplishment and what's been going on through the week. So that could be something to return to, is to primarily focus on the problem board, but maybe include other things like activities and things that have been going on through the week.
I like it, but we need a budget for it. So I don't know how that's going to happen. So I guess a lot of that's up to either we have to put in proposals or we have to find a way.
Yeah, Quasar. Your sound is not coming.
Well, bloody hello. GitHub is free, so is Google Sheets. The work is not. So we're back to the work, which is the funding, which is what is needed to, in my opinion, deliver the nominee forms and to get this going.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Valid point. Because wherever, for all this stuff we are speaking about, this is all based on 100% volunteerism. And we're expecting this from people who are already really busy and struggling themselves just to survive in the ecosystem. So,
well, I mean, we don't know who the nominees or the new circle reps are going to be, so we don't know how busy they'll be, and what resources they'll bring. We're not expecting this of QA DAO or CC admin or governance services guild or treasury guild. They all have proposals in anyway, and they're going to a contract model, so we can't speak of what we don't know.
So the original nominee form is out there. It's been turned, the rights has been turned off to it. So if we could find out, maybe that was Stephen that did that, or they can turn that back on.
We can definitely turn those back on or modify them.
Yeah, so we could at least take a look at that, and that could be submitted.
All right, we have 9 minutes left for most people. Have we bottomed out accountability? Or at least have good next steps for that? There's also code of conduct to talk about.
For me, in the code of conduct, I just threw out some ideas. I mean, whatever is there is, you can use it or toss it, whatever. It would, yesterday after town hall, I was there with the Women of Cardano, and they had the lady from Cardano Foundation there. She has an extensive background in human resources as well as legal. It would be interesting to get her take on what we're doing with the code of conduct, if possible.
Yeah, had any contact with Lynn, Felix?
I checked in for it. And he said, Jeremy said that he will definitely check in and have a look, but didn't got something so far then.
Yeah, Allison knows the lady's name. I could go back in my notes, but she welcomed the community to email her with any type of questions. So maybe Allison can help us, connect with her.
So what are the next steps for the code of conduct?
It's my opinion that we address these 5 through 9 because they're directly related to circle and issues that have been in the community, not issues within the community, things that every community should address from the beginning, and I believe that I believe it also helps define there's a lot there. It helps us define some of the expectations for the next circle. Should circle every member report all their proposals? Should they report the group proposals? Do they even submit proposals? How do we report violations? There's only one violation that, in my opinion, has been reported into GitHub. Is that the right place to do it? I don't know. I don't think so. And I think this is something that, as someone that's had, reports filed against them in groups, I believe that there is a need for this, some clarity on how to handle it, where to do it. And is this just within the circle, or is this what we should do for the community as well? That's the tricky part, is when it's, circle against circle conflict.
Well, as far as proposals, I think if we say no to putting proposals in, we're going to continue. We're slowly narrowing the gap of who's going to take this circle position. If you say no, don't put any proposals in, there's going to be a lot of people who says, well, I'm not going to jump into that. So I think they should be able to put their proposals in, but just not promote them as a circle, at a circle event or the circle authority or whatever.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
I mean, do you agree with that, Chris?
Which bit?
That circle members should be allowed to put in proposals while they're on circle.
I think the bit that I mean, I guess it depends on what it is, what we mean by proposal, right? I think proposal, if it's like if you're going to be putting forward a catalyst proposal, no, sorry. I think what I'm trying to say is maybe it's the definition of like what do we mean by proposal? Is it something that the catalyst circle rep has sensed from the community, and then that needs to be added to the backlog? Absolutely, that should be allowed, right? You know, that's the purpose of the
If I could, Joey.
Yeah.
I don't want to disagree with you. I understand why you said what you said and why Quasar said what he said, but I think we have an opportunity because this election is going to happen before the next funding round starts. And I don't think if anybody's serious enough to stand for nomination for Circle version 4 and get paid, I don't think it's too much to ask that they take a break for 6 months on putting in proposals. You know, if they're fortunate, they've been funded for other work that they're doing, and that is ongoing. But I kind of feel like, you know, why not just say, take a break from Catalyst proposing and work on Catalyst as a community. If that, you know, if you want to stand for nomination, I don't know that that's unreasonable, but I'm just putting it out there because that's my counterbalance. You know, somebody says something, I'm going to say, well, what's it look like on the other side of it? And I don't think that looks hard.
See, I think the conflict came before is when a circle member was putting in a proposal.
Sure. Right.
Intended to benefit. You know, there's always a question about should a circle member support a circle proposal that's for himself or of that nature, that type of thing, you know, as a circle. But
if we're putting
circle
in
members have been putting in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just feel like if we're putting in a parameter change so that all those things are kind of dealt with, then that takes away that need.
Well, hey, we're all experimenting. We just see if we get anyone to step up. I know I wouldn't. I would be like, yeah, you know, not that I've never had any proposals that have been voted up yet. So I'm going for the record of non-voted up proposals. So it wouldn't impact me, but other people in the community that are there specifically to not only contribute, but to put in proposals, it might be a call for them not to step up. A lot's going to depend when we put it out there just to see how many people we actually get that are interested. Like I've shared with you, Steve, already. I know I've got 2 people that are interested, but they don't know all these parameters yet.
Right. Well, I'm not sure we do yet. You know?
Right. I need to hop out, guys. We're at the top of the hour.
Thank you, Nori.
I really do too. I'm sorry. I you know, after Monday, I'm all yours. I mean, I'll do anything. You guys just let me know.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey, is it possible to open up the criteria nominee form? Is that one thing that can be done? And can we start pushing that or asking for nominees or anything to get people thinking about this?
Yeah, we can definitely unlock it, make a copy, free it up. If the form is acceptable as it is, that's super easy. If we want to add fields or things, then just let us know and we can enable that too.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Right.
everybody.
Thanks, guys. And Felix
Thanks a
is
lot. I'm sorry I have to
recording,
go.
so you guys can keep going.
Then, do we want to close it down? Or do you want to still go on?
Did Chris have to leave too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Assholes. Since it's recorded.
Well, I don't know what we can decide here, but I mean, maybe we just all just take a break and take another look at
Agree.
that list.
Then let's close the call.
Yeah, the one thing that I wanted to mention